Hello, and thank you for joining us. This is No Soundbites Allowed, and I am your host, Michael Voss, Dragon of the Southern Tier. I'm happy to be here with you today. As you may hear in my voice, we're a little under the weather, and we do apologize for that. But we wanted to take a moment to speak with you about the issue that came out last night. We weren't able to speak about it immediately, about Stephen Breyer, the Supreme Court Justice. More importantly, who will replace the Supreme Court Justice and why? And in particular, we've been hearing things even from individuals like Tim Pool and many others throughout the news media, and we think they just got it wrong. Well, part of what they said, they've gotten wrong. Let's explain exactly what we mean. But first, before we get started, we do want to mention, if it is the first time that you are seeing our channel, we welcome you and we thank you for being part of our audience. And we want you to know that every Sunday at 2:30 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, we do a live stream with you. We reach out on YouTube, Facebook, Twitter, all the internet that the social media overlords will allow to be able to hear your voice in your tweets, your chats, your phone calls every Sunday from anywhere in the world to speak with us about what you believe is important. And we hope that you'll join us this week from anywhere in the world because we believe in the right to free speech. It's not just an American value. It is something everyone should have. So even if your government doesn't agree, even if the internet overlords don't agree, we look forward to hearing your voice. We hope to see you this Sunday at 2:30 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Justice Breyer was very clear in his words. April 7th of 2021. Justice Breyer, speaking at the Harvard Law School, said structural alteration motivated by the perception of political influence would erode trust. And he spoke to many on the left when he said, think long and hard before embodying those changes in the law, before making radical changes to our Supreme Court, the way that it works and operates, and who's involved with it. I think this is very important. I think this is absolutely critical to understand, not just because Supreme Court Justice Breyer will be going away. He is now retiring. He will be out in June, and the next session of the Supreme Court will start in October. It's a very short window of time, and realistically, we will see that the Supreme Court office seat will be empty into the next session of the Supreme Court. Structural alteration, motivated perception of political influence. That's it. We are changing, or it is proposed that the Biden-Harris administration should change the very nature of the Supreme Court because of their political motivations, and that, of course, alters America indelibly. Now, there's a lot of people who are looking at this, and they have very different reasons. They have very specific reasons for why they think this is happening right now. One of those individuals is Tim Pool. Now, he's very popular. He's very well known. He's much larger than our own channel, and we are a fan of Tim Pool. This is not a personal attack. But he does cite something that we think is very common, something that is being said by many people throughout the political commentary and news media, and I think it's wrong. And I want you to hear exactly what we're speaking about.
Suffice it to say, this breaking news is bad, bad, bad news for Democrats. Now look, they have the House, they have the Senate, they have the presidency, they can make the appointment. So it's not like it's the apocalypse for them. It's actually fairly good, but it shows. Come November, they're going to get crushed in a red tsunami. I don't know for sure, but that's at least what everybody is predicting.
So here's the thought that everyone seems to be having. And you may have heard this over and over. The Democrats are doing this now because they're going to lose, because they know that they will not have the majority come January of 2023. And so this is their only opportunity. And they don't want to see what happened to Ruth Bader Ginsburg happen again, this time to Justice Stephen Breyer. Well, that's kind of correct, but I don't think it's right. I, in fact, disagree. They're not doing this because they're going to lose. And I don't question the fact that everyone agrees, even CNBC, CNN, MSNBC, all the major news media, even the furthest left of them, all agree that the Democrats are going to lose the 2022 midterm elections in a landslide at the least. That's not the question. We all agree on that. We all see those signs. And with good reason, given the failures of the Biden-Harris administration. But I think that points to exactly why Justice Breyer is making his move now. Because at 81 years old, being the oldest member of the liberal wing of the Supreme Court, he already had in mind, and we've heard rumors for years, that he was considering retiring. His timing, instead of waiting for the summer or waiting in the break of the Supreme Court between June and October, he could have made his announcement at any moment. He's doing it now, in January of 2022. Why would he do it now? And see, that's where I disagree with everyone. It's not because they're going to lose, because if that was the case, he could have waited until June. He could have come out and just said it in October. There's no reason for him to make that announcement if it's just because Democrats won't have the power. No. He's doing it now because he knows that the only thing that's motivating Democrats right now in this environment is the fact that he's going to retire, that they have to protect another seat in the Supreme Court. That's it. You see, this is political in every aspect. And Justice Breyer, for as much as he was touting keeping politics out of the Supreme Court, is playing into those very same politics. And everyone is avoiding or not seeing this very simple thing. Joe Biden, Kamala Harris need a win. They are desperate for a win. We have been documenting that as we've been covering what's been happening in the international policy that is absent from the Biden-Harris administration. And when we've been talking about that, you keep hearing they're looking for a deal with the Iran nuclear deal, with Iran. They've been trying to give away anything they can to get that deal so that they could have a win. Biden abandoned Afghanistan because he wanted a win. They're trying to reimagine the U.S. economics and try and ignore the 7%, if not greater, and I believe it's closer to 11% of inflation in the United States because they need a win. Everything they have touched has failed. The economy is bad. Its global stability is down. Global peace is eroding. The relationships between the United States and our allies, forget about our enemies, our allies have become more and more strained, whether that's with Germany, South Korea, Japan, Israel. We are looking across the world, and the United States is in a worse position under Joe Biden than it has been under even President Trump, as much of a cowboy as people wanted to call him, as much of a rogue agent as he was described by the left wing of the news media. That's not the case today. Over 1.72 million illegal aliens entered the United States. At least three confirmed or expected terrorists entered our southern border in that same time. 150,000 children were subjected to child abuse, sent on 1,000-mile treks by themselves to enter into the United States, all because of the encouragement of the Biden-Harris administration. And Kamala Harris, for her part, the czar of the southern border, is only going to the southern border, only addressing this issue one time out of every year. She made one trip in 2021, and now in 2022, she's going to make one more trip. It just shows you how much of a failure the Biden-Harris administration has been. So they need a win, because there is nothing motivating Democrats to go and vote. So that means as weak as Democrats are, and they are weak, with 29 Democrats that are retiring from Congress just in this next session, and there is being a 5-seat difference in the House, Democrats want a majority. Hell, they just want to hold on to what they have. And the only way they can do that is if Democrats come out and vote. And there is no reason for Democrats to come out to vote. Their confidence in the Biden-Harris administration, their confidence in Democrats has shrank. Just look at the 37% approval rating for Joe Biden, and you see that. The 26% approval rating for Kamala Harris. You see, there is nothing that is making people feel better. There was a recent poll. Some 20% of Americans regret having voted for Biden and would now, if the election were today, they would vote for President Trump instead. That's the environment that we find ourselves in. That's the environment that Tim Pool is speaking about. And he's looking at it from the end, not the beginning. You see, Justice Breyer is giving Democrats a reason to go out and vote. He is supporting. This is his boost. This is his rally call to Democrats to get them to show up. And this is the win. This is the manufactured win that the Biden-Harris administration has been looking for, and they are desperate for. And they need more. Absolutely, they need more. And we believe that they will make a last-minute, in desperation deal with Iran to increase global terror, but to give the Biden-Harris administration a win, kind of like how we've had an extreme success with Afghanistan, how we are having an extraordinary day in history to mark the way that inflation has been running up. These are the words from Joe Biden himself. He's told us that. So he needs this victory. He needs to have this win. And this is the win. This is the thing that will get Democrats out to vote, because even looking at, and I believe he's saying it in January, because it's so dire and it is so negative that no one even wants to show up for their for the petitions for 2022 midterms to make sure that they're going to have their candidates on the ballot. I think they were getting back news from all of the various districts and counties across the nation, and the apathy of Democrats, whether you're a progressive or a moderate, doesn't matter. The rank and file Democrats are so apathetic that they were going to have trouble with petitions across this nation unless there was some kind of win. Because that's the only reason why Justice Breyer would say this in January as opposed to saying it in June. It's not because Democrats will, in a lame duck session after the 2022 midterm elections, will then vote and pass and get Justice Breyer in. And I expect that vote to be 51-50, with Kamala Harris making the deciding vote on the Supreme Court justice, because they've pissed off Kirsten Sinema and Joe Manchin in an extreme level. They've censured Sinema, which means that they're looking to replace her. They're going to be putting her into a primary. They're trying to get rid of that woman. They don't want to fund her. They don't want to keep her. They're pissed off. And so when it comes down to a lame duck session, whether she wins or loses her seat in Arizona, well, she's going to have to vote. And how do you think she's going to feel about voting along Democratic lines because they've chased her into bathrooms and they've cheered that on? They've censured her. They've put up a primary against her. They've cut the funding to her. They've attacked her in the news media. How likely do you think she is to vote with them? I don't think she is. And she's made this statement before, after the bathroom attack, that they're pushing her to vote against bills rather than with them in bills, because submission isn't something that she wants to do. Even though that's what the Democratic Party is demanding. Obey. And we see that clearly with Joe Manchin and Kirsten Sinema. So I think it would be a vote of 51-50 with Kamala Harris making the tie-breaking vote in this lame duck session. So the question is, they need to get as many votes as they can in. They need to hold as many seats and pray for a miracle of being able to get one more Democrat elected, holding all the seats in the Senate that they have, and getting just one more Democrat in to give them that edge, that bit of safety, so that they could get to 52. In fact, it's incredibly unlikely. But that's where the other part of this problem comes in. See, you may have recalled that Joe Biden mentioned back in 2022, according to NBC News, in his discussion on May 6th of 2020, Joe Biden had stated, "I'm looking forward to making sure there's a black woman on the Supreme Court to make sure we, in fact, get every representation." That is a stupid, ignorant, and insulting statement. If you really think about it, take the emotion out of it. Take out your emotions. For all of my friends who are Democrats, who are moderates, take out your emotions about diversity. Throw that out the window. Okay? And look at what he is saying. That he is trying to make sure there is a person to represent everyone in America. Okay, you want to have diversity in the Supreme Court. That would mean that we would have someone who's Asian, that we're going to have someone who's gay, someone who's trans, that's someone who's skinny, someone who's fat. You would need to fulfill this idea of diversity in our Supreme Court. You would need to have a couple of hundred different types of people to represent the hundreds of thousands of different types of peoples, and the hundreds of thousands of peoples that fill the United States. We have immigrants, we have people who have different religious beliefs, who have different shades of color of skin, who have different everything. That's the United States. We have people from everywhere, and every type of ideology is represented there. To be able to get diversity in the Supreme Court would require hundreds of judges on the Supreme Court. Therefore, it wouldn't be the Supreme Court. And it would be incredibly political. So at its face, diversity is a farce. 12 people don't represent the nation, nor were they ever intended to represent the people. That's why we have a Congress. That's why we have the House of Representatives. That is for the representation of the public, not the Supreme Court. That's not their job. It's not a job requirement. But we do know that this was important, and this was how it worked out, because some Democrats speculated that Senator Kamala Harris and Stacey Abrams, a former Georgia gubernatorial candidate, both lawyers, will find their way onto Biden's Supreme Court shortlist if they are passed over for vice president. I'm going to address that in just 1 second. Joe Biden had to pick Kamala Harris as a woman of color and a woman because of diversity. Well, and what did we get? Was she the most qualified person? Has she been doing the best job? Is she been excelling at this job? And the answer, unequivocally and empirically, is no. There's a reason why she's at 26% approval. Even Democrats do not like the job that she is doing. Everyone can point to the southern border and say, you're visiting and working on the southern border, the immigration crisis, 2 million people entering the United States illegally once every year. You're not going to the meetings with other nations on this? When she has gone overseas, she's made embarrassments to the United States, like when she wiped her hand after shaking the hand of President Moon of South Korea, increasing tensions in Southeast Asia for the United States. Is this what we're talking about? That's what you got for diversity. Not that she was the best qualified, but diversity. And I can tell you again, she wasn't the best qualified because she was one of the first of 26 Democrats seeking the nomination for the presidency in 2020, and she jumped out of the race. She never had more than 5% of Democrats that supported her. And yet she became the vice president because of the color of her skin and her gender. That's it. Those aren't qualities. Those aren't qualifications. They don't enhance anyone. And when we say that we want to see a Supreme Court justice that's going to be black and a woman, you have said that it means nothing. You have politicized the entire process. In fact, you have gone and done exactly what Supreme Court Justice Breyer has said not to do. The thing he was warning us about, that structural alteration motivated by perceptions of political influence are going to erode the trust of the public in the Supreme Court. That thinking long and hard before embodying these changes, because they have negative consequences when you have someone who is not qualified in the job. Now, yesterday I've had a lot of conversations with people who have said, well, Kamala Harris is absolutely tanking as the vice president for the Democrats, and they're therefore going to try and get rid of her. We've already heard talk amongst Democrats that have said, well, they're going to replace Kamala Harris because she is hurting the Biden administration, which I think the Biden administration is hurting the Biden administration. But they're saying, well, Kamala Harris could be made into a Supreme Court justice. This way, that would open up the vice presidency, and they could put in someone better to run, maybe Stacey Abrams, that could then take her place and run for Democrats, and they'd be getting a boost. And I would say to you that I think that's absolutely wrong. Now, there's a couple of reasons for that, and let me explain. Because we see this from Politico, that they're saying, no, that's just not possible. And their answers are, they need Kamala Harris for the 51st vote in the Senate. So if there's a tied Senate, 50-50, which is realistic, that's assuming every Democrat votes for the Supreme Court pick and every Republican votes against it, Kamala Harris can come in as vice president and vote. But if she is going to be the the Supreme Court nominee, she would not be able to make that vote. So it's a bad idea from that point of view. I'll give you the most simple reason. Kamala won't do it. She stands to become the next president. She's going to replace, in our opinion, in January, she's going to replace Joe Biden under the 25th Amendment because of the mental deterioration that we have all seen that is evident for everyone of Joe Biden. Joe Biden is going to be removed in January 2023. Kamala Harris is going to replace him. She is going to be the first black female president, and she wants that title. Her ambitions demand that she gets that title. And so she's going for it. There's no way you could convince her to become a Supreme Court justice instead. So that brings us back to the other name that a lot of people were talking about, which is a woman you've maybe seen in a bunch of YouTube commercials, Stacey Abrams, a woman who has run for Georgia, the governor of Georgia, and failed. She is a lawyer, and she is unqualified. Point blank, she's just unqualified. Stacey Abrams is a tax attorney. There has never been a Supreme Court justice that was a tax attorney that had tax attorney as their background. That just doesn't happen. She has worked with tax-exempt organizations, healthcare, and public finance, and politics. That's it. She's a political figure. She's just another lawyer who's in politics. And there are a lot of them. Half of Congress is filled with lawyers who do politics. She's got no qualifications. She's not a serious contender. That's just a fact. That has nothing to do with whether she is a good woman. That has nothing to do with whether or not she's a good politician. That has nothing to do with whether she's important to some people or not. The fact is, Stacey Abrams is not qualified to be a Supreme Court justice. Point blank. She's not. She's not seen enough cases of enough diversity on enough issues. And she doesn't have the experience. Let's be honest about it. And you can dress it up and put it any way you want. It doesn't matter. In fact, that's the problem with the entire idea of selecting a very specific type of minority. In every single one of your choices, you have to pick out someone who has to be very specifically qualified and fill in these other categories. And since you can't and you won't, that's why people like Stacey Abrams show up on lists for Supreme Court justice, because there are so few people who actually fill the criteria properly and will be able to be in. I'll give you an example of what I'm talking about here. I'm going to go back to NBC News. This is coming from the left. So NBC News says there are 48 women who are African Americans and currently sitting federal judges. But Biden's base realistic options on the bench are only 11. Because not only do they have to be black, not only do they need to be women, not only do they need to be having served on a federal bench as a judge, but they also have to be 55, roughly 55 or younger. That's exactly 11 people, and none of those 11 people have enough experience to actually be in. Let's take a look at what CNN has to say about it. And CNN is as biased as it comes. But even they recognize that the individuals that would be on the list, well, they have all of 1, 2, 3. That's it. Those are the picks, 3 choices. And after those 3 choices, they have another 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So in total, at best, only 8 women can be picked according to CNN. And even some of those, well, kind of like Anita Earls, a 61-year-old North Carolina Supreme Court Associate Justice whose age would likely hamper serious consideration from Democrats looking to seat a younger nominee in the court. She's just too old. At 61, she's just 6 years too old. How about the rest of these women? Regardless of the qualifications, it has nothing to do with whether or not they're good. And this came out January 26th. Yesterday. Democrats don't care if you're good. Do you check the box? Check the box black. Check the box woman. Check the box age. You get the job. Not are you qualified? Are you good enough? Are you the right person? This is absolutely structurally changing the structure of the Supreme Court. And it's all about politics. It's all about getting votes. The votes that the Biden-Harris administration have been losing amongst blacks and younger people, and in general, all Democrats across this nation who don't have any confidence. The moderates who have no confidence in the Biden-Harris administration. What did Tim Pool and many of the pundits, the news media, are getting wrong? The fact is that it's not because Democrats are guaranteed to lose, so they're looking for a lame duck session victory and putting in Supreme Court justice. If that were the case, the news would have come out in June, not in January. It's because they're trying to prevent the landslide slaughter of the losses in the midterm elections, and they need a victory. And this is the only victory they can manufacture. They have nothing else to point to, nothing else that is going well for them, nothing else that is ranking well in polls. This is a reason to get Democrats to show up. The threat that if they don't get a replacement, they won't get a black woman on the Supreme Court. And of course, it could be God forbid, a conservative would replace Justice Breyer. That's the motivation. It's not because of the loss. It's to prevent the loss from being as bad as it's going to be. That's it. So I think they've got that wrong. And I think that if anyone actually looks at it, they will be insulted and upset and angry that Joe Biden is picking someone based on the color of their skin, which conveys no intelligence or experience, the gender of that individual, which conveys no experience and no qualifications, and that this is going to fulfill his promise, which was a vacuous political ploy. He is using black people, he is using progressives to gain an advantage politically. And the nation will suffer. Truly, the nation will suffer if we have anyone in the Supreme Court that does not have the qualifications. I don't care what color they are. I don't care what gender they are. I don't care what their sexual preference, because none of those things matter. None of those things have to do with the law. And if they are qualified, they should be on the Supreme Court. And they are not qualified, they shouldn't be. And we should all agree on that, at least. But perhaps you think we're wrong. Perhaps you think that Stacey Abrams will make an excellent Supreme Court justice. We would love to hear why. Perhaps you think that Kamala Harris has to be put into the Supreme Court because the vice presidency is being dragged down by her. We would love to hear your reason why. Perhaps you think that it must be a black woman because of diversity and representation. And we would like to hear the argument why that is a reason for anything. And of course, we hope to hear from you on Sunday at 2:30 p.m. Eastern Standard Time from anywhere in the world to join us in our live stream and to speak about this and other issues that matter to us all. We thank you, and we hope you'll be well.